In the bright lights of casinos and the excitement of online betting platforms, millions of people worldwide engage in gambling activities for entertainment. However, for some individuals, what begins as casual fun transforms into a devastating mental health condition known as gambling disorder. This serious behavioral addiction affects approximately 1 to 3% of the global population, yet it remains one of the most misunderstood and stigmatized mental health conditions of our time. Gambling disorder, formerly known as pathological gambling, was officially recognized as a behavioral addiction in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders in 2013. This recognition marked a crucial shift in understanding that gambling addiction shares similar neurological pathways and treatment approaches as substance use disorders. Unlike casual gambling, gambling disorder involves persistent and recurrent problematic gambling behavior that leads to significant impairment and distress in personal, family, and occupational areas of life. Understanding the nature of gambling disorder. Gambling disorder is characterized by an inability to control gambling impulses despite experiencing negative consequences. Individuals with this condition often find themselves caught in a cycle of increasing bets, chasing losses, and experiencing intense cravings to gamble. The disorder manifests through various symptoms including preoccupation with gambling, needing to gamble with increasing amounts of money to achieve excitement, repeated unsuccessful efforts to control or stop gambling, and restlessness when attempting to cut down. The condition often progresses through distinct phases. The winning phase typically involves occasional gambling with consistent wins, creating a false sense of confidence and skill. This transitions into the losing phase, where losses begin to accumulate, leading to increased betting to recover money. Finally, the desperation phase emerges, characterized by panic, larger bets, and increasingly risky behavior to chase losses. Understanding these phases helps identify when recreational gambling crosses the line into disorder territory. Research indicates that gambling disorder affects the brain's reward system, particularly areas involved in decision-making and impulse control. Neuroimaging studies show that individuals with gambling disorder exhibit similar brain activity patterns to those with substance addictions, including altered dopamine responses and reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for executive functions and self-control. Risk factors and demographics. Several factors contribute to the development of gambling disorder, making certain individuals more vulnerable than others. Genetic predisposition plays a significant role, with studies showing that individuals with family histories of addiction or mental health disorders are at higher risk. Environmental factors such as early exposure to gambling, cultural attitudes toward gambling, and accessibility to gambling venues also contribute to risk levels. Mental health comorbidities are extremely common among individuals with gambling disorder. Depression, anxiety disorders, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and substance use disorders frequently co-occur with gambling addiction. These conditions often create a complex web where each disorder reinforces the others, making treatment more challenging and recovery more complicated. Demographic patterns reveal that gambling disorder affects people across all age groups, socioeconomic levels, and cultural backgrounds. However, certain populations show higher prevalence rates. Young adults, particularly males aged 18 to 29, demonstrate elevated risk levels. Military veterans, individuals in high-stress occupations, and those with limited social support systems also show increased vulnerability. Additionally, the rise of online gambling has made the disorder more accessible to previously low-risk populations, including elderly individuals and those with mobility limitations. Warning signs and symptoms. Recognizing gambling disorder requires understanding both obvious and subtle warning signs. Behavioral indicators include spending increasing amounts of time and money on gambling activities, lying about gambling involvement, borrowing money or selling possessions to fund gambling, and neglecting work, family, or social responsibilities. Emotional symptoms often manifest as mood swings related to gambling outcomes, increased irritability when unable to gamble, and feelings of guilt or shame about gambling behavior. Physical signs may be less apparent, but can include sleep disturbances, changes in appetite, and stress-related health problems. Individuals with gambling disorder often experience financial consequences, such as unpaid bills, maxed-out credit cards, and requests for loans from friends and family members. Social isolation becomes common as individuals withdraw from relationships to hide their gambling activities or spend more time gambling. The progressive nature of gambling disorder means that symptoms typically worsen over time without intervention. What begins as occasional overspending evolves into serious financial problems, relationship breakdowns, and potential legal issues. Family members often report feeling confused, frustrated, and helpless as they witness their loved one's deteriorating condition while struggling to understand the compulsive nature of the behavior. Impact on individuals and families. The consequences of gambling disorder extend far beyond financial losses, creating ripple effects that impact every aspect of an individual's life and their family system. Financial devastation is often the most visible consequence, with individuals potentially losing homes, retirement savings, children's college funds, and accumulating substantial debt. The average person with gambling disorder loses approximately $75,000 to gambling activities, though losses can be much higher depending on income and access to credit. Relationship damage represents another significant impact area. Trust becomes severely compromised as lying and deception become normalized behaviors to hide gambling activities. Marriages frequently end in divorce, and family relationships suffer long-lasting damage. Children in families affected by gambling disorder often experience emotional neglect, financial instability, and may develop their own mental health challenges as a result of the chaotic family environment. Employment and career consequences are common, including decreased productivity, absenteeism, and potential job loss due to gambling-related activities during work hours or financial pressures. Educational pursuits may be abandoned as gambling takes priority over academic responsibilities. The shame and stigma associated with gambling disorder often prevent individuals from seeking help, leading to increased isolation and worsening symptoms. Mental health deterioration accompanies gambling disorder, with high rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation among affected individuals. The cycle of hope and despair created by gambling wins and losses creates emotional instability that affects decision-making abilities and overall psychological well-being. Treatment and recovery options. Effective treatment for gambling disorder requires a comprehensive approach addressing both the behavioral addiction and underlying psychological factors. Cognitive behavioral therapy represents the gold standard treatment, helping individuals identify triggers, develop coping strategies, and modify thought patterns that support gambling behavior. This therapeutic approach focuses on understanding the relationship between thoughts, feelings, and gambling urges while building practical skills for managing cravings and avoiding high-risk situations. Support groups, such as Gamblers Anonymous, provide peer support using a 12-step model similar to Alcoholics Anonymous. These groups offer ongoing support, accountability, and the opportunity to learn from others who have successfully managed their gambling disorder. Family therapy and support groups for family members address the systemic impact of gambling disorder and help repair damaged relationships. Medication may be helpful for some individuals, particularly when gambling disorder co-occurs with depression, anxiety, or other mental health conditions. While no medications are specifically approved for gambling disorder, antidepressants and mood stabilizers may reduce gambling urges and address underlying mental health symptoms. Financial counseling and debt management services help individuals develop realistic plans for addressing gambling-related financial problems. Many treatment programs incorporate financial recovery as an essential component of overall recovery planning.